Let's see, I actually thought I'd stand here because I love connecting with people, and I always have trouble doing that behind some kind of thing. I'm sure y'all looked at me and said, oh, he can't be the conservative of the group up here. He can't possibly be that guy. So I live in San Francisco now, and lived there with my wife for a while. I am originally from here, though, from Kentucky. And actually, though I lived in Louisville for a while, I grew up in Frankfurt, but when I was really young, I was down south in McCreary County, really right next to the border with Tennessee, Appalachia, coal mining, lumber area. Very, very rural. I think we're 1,500 people there now. And it's very conservative, very small towny, very Christian. And in a lot of ways, these are my people. This is kind of who I know. These are where my heroes come from. Cora is somebody I know there. She would tell me when she was a little kid, their family would brush their teeth with celery sticks because that's really all they had. She was the kind of person who I never heard complain once in my entire life. If she made $1 today, she would put 50 cents in the bank because she wanted to save it for her kids. Her husband never could keep a job for more than a week. She took care of her family and took care of both her kids and got them through college completely on her own. And without any handouts or anything, she was really proud of that. I think her grandchildren are kind of tired of hearing her tell them how proud she was about that. But a true hero of mine. I'm also a different person. A lot of us are many different people. My mom is New England. Her father was a history professor, very well educated, well off. My dad's from out west. He went to Stanford, successful, a privileged background. And we have different ways of looking at things. I'm a philosophy major, studied a lot of religion. I love Zen Buddhism. I actually taught a little bit of Nietzsche, God is dead, that guy who was very famous for that. Judaism, I love pieces of that. I'm very much a strong Episcopalian myself. But that's a little bit unusual for somebody from Southern Kentucky, but that's part of who I am too. Those are my people too. I was really lucky to be able to be in mixed worlds where I got to see from a very early age kind of how there are beauty in all these different people. I had heroes from different areas of the world, different ways of looking at things. And there were some bad sides of those things too. But I got to learn very early on how there is a divinity in each of us that we all look for and find. And I don't know about you, but I could identify with everyone who's talked so far. In one way or another, they hit me in a certain personal way. Stereotypes suck. They are awful. They teach us not to look at each other as human beings or identify and connect with that divinity in each of us, but to ignore that. So from here, I went to school, Vanderbilt, did the political thing, thought I should get a real job, went to business school at Duke, had my first job up in Seattle, other side of the world as far as I could tell. Up in Microsoft, joined the original team there, did my own little startup. We sold that eventually, then I did Netscape. And I'll stop there because that's where this ties into what I'm doing right now again. So early on in the days when the internet was young, I was trying to figure out, what's that going to mean? How's that going to impact us? And I'm definitely a believer and I still am, on the possibilities of getting better information so we can make better decisions as a community and as individuals. Being able to connect with people all around the world, online this way, or through other ways so we can actually know people as individuals, online, video, otherwise. That's what's the promise of the internet. That's the promise for a lot of us early on who are working obscene hours, drinking Coke, or in my case, Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is my drink. And working crazy hours because that's what we believed in. But 25 years ago, actually it'd be 26 years ago in January, I gave a speech that also said how I thought the internet would train us to discriminate against each other in new ways. So with all of this information coming at us, we have to sort through it somehow. And so I figured that the way the internet works would be kind of like, thinking in terms of metaphor, this is similar to that. They do a search on this, which is kind of what I'm looking for. Or so we now think about you're a friend of a friend, so maybe you're okay. And I was in some ways right in ways I never thought about. We now call these filter bubbles, where we are in worlds where we only know people just like us. And we only know or hear or get fed to us through massive algorithms and AI information we already agree with, or it's designed to get our emotions just in a certain way. What happens to us? What happens to us when we're in these filter bubbles? Well, there are a lot of studies about this. Most recent one I know is from the University of Colorado. And what it shows, every time, all these different studies show the same thing, that when we're in that kind of filter bubble, we become much more extreme in whatever we believe. We also become much less tolerant of anybody or any different person, personality or person idea, any different idea than us. Yeah, I heard some hmms over here. We all know this. We all experience this in our lives. And it's not just in the US, it's worldwide. This is a problem in all modern world. Europe, Asia, we're all being driven by technology today to divide in ways that stun us, that shock us. So what do we do about it? A lot of people up here and in this room are doing different things about it, but what can we do about it? You heard a little about what we're doing at AllSides. We are showing people different perspectives. So you can't see your perspective without seeing the other perspective along the way. We're getting ourselves outside those filter bubbles. Our mission is to free people from filter bubbles so they can better understand the world and each other. And it's and each other that we're talking about a lot here. It's not just information, which is so important. We do that with news and issues. We have a red-blue translator so we can read and understand how somebody else might see the same word that I see and have a completely different understanding and reaction to that same word. But it's also about connecting, understanding. It's a relationship flow between people. Twitter doesn't really work very well for us. So we need to find ways to connect with each other in a personal way. And so we've been helping organizations do that. America Talks is one great organization in partnership with Listen First and a bunch of others. And USA Today, we had conversations across the country. Over 1,000 people signed up for online conversations where they weren't just tweeting at each other, but they could actually see each other on video and follow a living room conversation style guide so they could accidentally discover the humanity of the other person. Living room conversations. I've been working with Joan for a long time like that. Joan, by the way, and I are really great friends. She grew up in Berkeley. I love showing a picture of Berkeley and her progressive background, and she was co-founder of MoveOn.org, a very liberal group in my little town of Kentucky, and our conservatives. And I love telling people in San Francisco I used to work for Mitch McConnell. I get lots of boos for that. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Very different people, but working together because we see what brought Joan in this from living room conversations, what brought her here is that she cared about climate change. And she realized we could never deal with that problem because we stopped talking with each other. Whatever your issue, racial equality, schools is one I care passionately about, immigration or inflation or economic opportunity, whatever it is, we cannot solve it without working with each other and talking with each other. And that's what we can do. That's what we know how to do. And I hear our great calls and our desire for the whole world to kind of see each other. And that is the way to go. But you know what? We don't need that to succeed. When we talk, I'm very interested in transforming, helping transform, working with other people to transform our society to have a culture and policies that really do help people. And when you talk to experts about that, they say that when you get 3.5%, only 3.5% of any populace engaged in what they would call a movement, change happens. Policies change. Cultures change. There are 330 million people in America. I'm a math guy, can't help it. 330 million people in America. That's only, if you're looking at adults and registered voters, that's only 5.5 to 10.5 million people total. Coming from Microsoft and Netscape, those are very doable numbers. These are things we do. We know how to connect people like this. And there's such a desire for it today. When I started with AllSides years ago, people didn't even believe that media, whatever, was dividing us. They didn't even understand filter bubbles. So we all know about this problem now. That's a great opportunity. I'm not talking about just something to feel good about and fight for the right fight. I'm talking about truly changing numerically, practically, our society. And the only question all of us have is, what path are we going to follow? What story are we going to write together? I think we can write a great one. Thanks.